All right, we are back and we are live with episode 8. Cribs and the Reckless One himself back here to give you more AK Reckless Thoughts podcast thoughts and anything else that we can spit at you. Cribs, how you feeling? How's everything?
I'm good, but I actually just realized, are we live on YouTube right now?
We are
Oh,
officially live on YouTube. This is the
wait,
first
so
time
we're
that we do it.
just oh
We're
oh
just
we're
in. We're just
we're,
in and we're doing
we're
this.
here. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, my bad. I didn't realize
So
that's what was happening right now.
so this is the first time we experiment with that. So we're gonna be doing obviously now going live on YouTube. So we're gonna officially like today's episode we're doing it and then it gets posted in about an hour or two later on tonight. So that will go up, but we're just kind of experimenting. But in the future, we are going to give a live episode, and I'm thinking for episode 10, so it'll be our 10th anniversary, maybe like a little 10th episode anniversary. Maybe we can do it for then. Have people join us. We'll give them a date, and we'll go from there. But either way, welcome to the Reckless Thoughts Podcast. Like always, you could always follow us on Instagram, Reckless Thoughts Podcast on IG. You could also follow us individually on Instagram and Twitter. Mine's is at Reckless824 for my handle. Cribs, give them yours.
I am Crib KRIB_ZEEZ at Twitter and Instagram. You can find me there.
Yes, yes. Don't judge us on our posts. All right, cool. So we're doing here another episode in Cribs. Like we always start the show. What you been up to, man? What's going on?
Well, this week was fantasy week. So, at least for me. So, I had a draft this week. I mean, besides that, honestly, just been catching up on some news.
Yeah.
Anyone that's a Miami Dolphins fan, we had a huge loss in our community
Mhm.
this week. The senior VP of communications for the Miami Dolphins actually passed away unexpectedly on Saturday. And Mike McDaniels came out, head coach Mike McDaniels came out and, almost broke down in tears in front of the press when he was talking about Jason Jenkins and what he meant to us in our community in Miami. So a lot of prayers go out to his family. He leaves
All
three
right.
kids, and yeah, it's a big loss for Miami, man. He spearheaded a lot of volunteers and a lot of charities down here. He was part of a lot of boards, and it's a huge loss. So
Absolutely.
there'll be a
Well,
memorial. There's going to be a memorial for him on Monday at 4. If
yeah,
if anyone's interested, that'll be
for
at the
sure.
Hard Rock Stadium. So
We'll touch base a little bit more about it. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit more about his untimely passing, and we're going to get into fantasy football and like our little draft results for what we got so far. I have a lot of leagues, so this was my first of many. But for Cribs, this is your only league, so we'll talk about that and we'll kind of look at it. We'll kind of decipher the team and see what you need, what you need to look for during free agency as we kind of get into that next stage of our sports involvement for this year. But I've been myself traveling. I just got back from Cuba. I think the tan looks a little bit good. I don't know. Maybe
you're
you can tell
back.
from the last episode how my tan is. But yes, I am back, and I am now currently in Rhode Island. So I traveled back to Miami to Rhode Island. So either way, I'm over here at Salty Walties once again. If you don't remember the door, maybe you can check a couple episodes before that. If you're just listening to us on Spotify, that's where I am right now. But let's get into it. Let's talk more. I use that for the reckless thoughts. My final reckless thoughts about Cuba. But let's just get into it. Let's dive into it. And of course, we want to talk a little bit more about Jason Jenkins and his untimely passing at 47 years old. Cribs, you're a little bit more tied in with the Miami scenery. You're more of a fan, diehard fan than I am. I'm obviously a fan of the Niners. So, just express a little bit more. Just express a little bit more about like what it really means. Because I mean, for a lot of people are like, well, what's the big deal? Like people pass all the time, but why is Jason Jenkins someone that was very significant for the Miami Dolphins? What did he mean for that organization?
Yeah, so I mean, I can talk on like a personal point because I have been fortunate enough to been able to have worked with a lot of with a couple of teams in Miami, sports teams, and that's kind of how I got to meet him personally. And he was just such a like charismatic character. He was always there. He was huge on equality and. During the pandemic, like a lot of people were struggling here in Miami. A lot of us had lost our jobs. I mean, obviously it was a worldwide thing, but there's a places in Miami that are below poverty level. A lot of people had no food, had no income. And the Dolphins organization was like the first organization down here to go out and start giving the community free food. And that was something that he had come up with, him and his team. And it's just, he was so selfless. Like everything with him was bigger picture. He wanted to leave a legacy down here, and he cared a lot about the community and the people. And yeah, it means a lot to the community. People think that with sports, it's only about sports, but there's a lot that goes into the charity work that sports organizations do. Even though you don't always see a player, or, it's not like a big deal because it's just a mascot. But when they're doing these kind of charities and activities, like this means a lot to people in the community, and that's how you build fandom too. It's a huge part of how you get people to support your team. And he worked with the Miami Dolphins for 14 years. He cared about the community. He raised money. The cycling challenge, the Dolphins have a cycling challenge that they do here to raise money for cancer. And he was one of the people that was on the board. He was able to like hit a new milestone with raising money. It's just incredible. He did incredible work. And it's honestly like such a sad thing to face, that he will be with the Dolphins anymore. When it happened, it was Saturday. We had a Saturday night game that night. It was a preseason game. And Mike McDaniels didn't want to tell the team because he was such a huge part of the team and their personal player foundations as well. So they made a decision to not tell anybody till after the game. And yeah, it was just like, it's hit around the NFL. Head coach for the Lions came out, and he was talking about when he met Jason Jenkins, what he meant to the people. He was also an athletic director for his alma mater back in Texas. So he was born in Houston, from Houston. It's a loss all over the sports world.
Absolutely. And at such a young age, only 47 years old, died from a blood clot, I guess, that, went from his leg, and entered his heart. But, these things happen, unfortunately. And then, such a young life to be taken away. I mean, 47 years old is, still got, according to, I don't know about you, but I always felt like growing up that like a lifespan should be from like 1 to 100. I always felt like, I don't know why that I measured it that way. And I feel like maybe a lot of people do. I don't know if I'm the only one that measured it that way. So if my measurement is correct, I mean, he was halfway into his life and had a whole other half, left. So, it's unfortunate for his passing, but, it's amazing some of the, great things that have been said about him, throughout the media and, the social media as well, with so many people reaching out, saying great things about him. Such an untimely passing, and, just a hit for the Miami Dolphins. But, life moves on, and I'm sure that Jason would love all of us to continue, moving on, and maybe, doing some
Dolphins
charity
to the
work.
Super Bowl.
Take it to the Super Bowl. Why not? Dedicate it to him, right? So, we'll see if all those things come to fruition or not. But, yeah, it's very unfortunate that his passing, do you know who was going to take over his position, or if anybody?
I'm not sure. I don't have any insider insight for you.
Yeah.
I do know that it'll probably stay within the organization because his team was closely knit. So we'll see.
Right.
We shall see. But whoever it is, they're going to have big shoes to fill.
Very, very true. Very true. Well, we'll move on to some lighter news now. So, Cribs, obviously with the end of August, there's always a new chapter for us fans, and that chapter would be fantasy football. And I think it's my favorite time of the year. It's the time that the reason I travel to Rhode Island at this time is to do my fantasy football drafts live. For about 2 years, we weren't able to do it because of the pandemic. So it's going to be great to see everybody again. I have a league that is 15 years. We're going to be celebrating our 15th year anniversary this year. So it's going to be an amazing thing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you feel. I don't know how long you've been playing. I know maybe we touched based on it a little bit last episode. Been playing for about 16 years, but I never seen, and I've gone through phases where I'm like, I don't want to play this year. Like, I'm done. And then I'm like, nope, can't do it. It's like, it's like fighting with a girlfriend. Like, you fight. Yeah, you just fight with them. And then you're like, you get over it. You're like, all right, we'll do it. We'll try it out. But, we'll touch base on some things. We're going to talk about different different aspects about fantasy football. So I'm going to ask you first. What is your favorite platform to play on when it comes to fantasy football?
So recently, in the recent years, I've only played on ESPN, so that's kind of become like my,
The norm.
my well-known little nook. But I do remember there was a couple years ago. Actually, I think it was when we played together, where we used to play on Yahoo, and I liked Yahoo a lot. Mostly because I just like to see the grade, and I think that they had like good updates throughout the season. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have a preference right now. I can tell you that I'm most comfortable with ESPN based on the fact that I've played with them for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I personally been a Yahoo person. I've been using Yahoo for my league for all 15 years. I've played ESPN with other leagues, so I don't mind it. And then I've also played even CBS. There's a new one with I don't know if you heard of this one, but it's called Sleeper, and it's a pretty cool new fantasy platform because it gives you so much like flexibility on the things that you can do, like how you want the league to be ran. But I feel like Yahoo gives me the enough flexibility because my league is very unique. So like the way like even drafts are done differently from other people's drafts. Usually the draft order is always like a snake order. So like if you have the last pick on one round, you'll have the first pick in the next round, and so on and so forth. But in my league, it's a little So we'll talk a little bit about that too. So I mean, now that I brought it up, Cribsy, what is your favorite draft position? What is your favorite spot to draft from? Right, from 1 to 10 to 12 to 14. Who knows? I don't know. You tell me.
So for the first time ever this week, I felt the most immense pressure that I have felt in my life throughout a fantasy draft. And it is because I am in a 12-person league, and I got the 12th pick in a snake draft.
Okay, wow.
So I'll put you in a scenario, right? This was my thinking the whole time. So a first round, I am watching one by one solid players just out. Bam, 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 bam. And I'm like, good God, when is it my turn? Like, this is not okay. Like I am stressed.
Right.
And then I'm like, wait, when it's my turn, I have to pick 2 people.
Right.
I go back to back, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not prepared for this,
Right.
So whatever, I got my list. I'm like, all right, let's see what's going to go down, how this is going to go down. I felt very confident that my team was not solid. Like from that first and second round, and like having to pick like second tier receivers and second tier like running backs, I was like, man, I don't think that I'm gonna have like a solid team, based on the fact that there's just too much pressure.
Right.
It was too much having to pick back to back, watching everybody. And then the thing is, right, on a snake draft, you go back to back, then that means you have to wait for everyone to go again. So that's a whole other 10 minutes that you're not in the zone, because you're just watching left and right more good solid picks leave.
Right.
Bye. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going down my list, and they're like, as they're picking them, I'm like, great, awesome, cool, perfect, wow. Like, I was like, what is happening? So for sure, 12 is not my favorite.
So would you want a number 1 pick? Because the number 1 pick doesn't see a draft pick it has the number 1 player based on the rankings, but then they're not going to see a draft pick also till, the late second round, where they go double pick as well.
No, I would say my good picks, or like a good position for me personally, I would say it would probably be like 3rd, 4th, or 5th.
Okay. Based on a 12-man league or a 10?
I think both.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't do first because of that, because you wait so long, and also because there's so much pressure to pick like the first person. So I wouldn't do first, but I would say somewhere like 3, 4, 5, where I still have like at least one solid first tier wide receiver at least, and then go from there.
Okay, cool, fair enough. Now you prefer 10-man leagues.
Absolutely.
Right. You prefer 10-man. I hate 10-man leagues, and I'll tell you why. So I hate 10-man leagues because I feel like everybody's got a solid team. Like you don't really have to put that much effort into like your drafts. You don't have to put that much homework. So here you are, and I'm over here thinking like I got a squad. Like the other day, my Walt showed me his team, and I was like, dude, how many people were picking in this draft? And he was like, oh, it was a 10-man league. And I was like, damn. I was like, because I was going to say, if this was a 10-man league, you got the championship like in your hands. Because he had such a solid squad. Like he had players that I've been looking at. And I'm like, damn, like this is going to be a tough team to beat. But in a 10-man league, like it's just kind of like anything can happen. And then there's also a lot of availability in the free agent market. And it's just, I feel like it's just too easy to like get a win. Where in a 12-man league, I mean, sometimes you're starting a fourth string wide receiver, hoping to God that they give him like a 70-yard bomb and he like blows up this game. You know what I mean? So like it just, I prefer 12. 14, I used to do, my league used to be 14. It used to be the most challenging league that I always felt like it was, because that's what I wanted. I wanted the most unique and challenging league possible.
This is a
And
15-year one?
this was a 15-year one. It's changed to 12. We changed to 12. I want to say like year 7 or 8, give or take, something like that. Like we had people dropping, and then like it was just like let's just keep it at 12, and everybody voted to keep it at 12, and everybody enjoyed it from there. So we just kept it at 12, and then I joined a league right after that's very close with my league, and like because it has like similar people that play in both leagues, and they do 14. So it's brought me back to home. Like it's just brought me back to playing 14, which is a very competitive league because it's like you've got to be able to get your top tier players because you're not going to see anybody come round 4 and 5. It's going to be a big drop off when you have 14 players instead of 12. Anywho, I mean that's just my preference. My number one spot to go from, I love picking from the 5-6 range, 6-7. I like 6 or 7 because I'm always going to be in the middle of a snake draft. So when I get 6 on one end, and then when it comes back, I'm number 7, or vice versa, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So like I love that pick. I think it's like middle ground. You're always gonna be in the same spot in the draft. And it's just I like that consistency. Yesterday I was in a draft and I was number 10, and like it was cool because it was 10, 11, 12, and then it was 13, 14, and I was picked 15. You know what I mean? So I was like right there. So it was kind of cool to see how it would go, and I had a solid team. And like I mean, these guys were reaching for players. I think this league might have some players that don't really know fantasy like that. So I mean, just to give you an example, Josh Allen, a quarterback, was picked number 4, and I was just like, no, like you just, like that was a horrible pick. Like, not to say Josh Allen ain't gonna do good, but it's such a high price to pay for a quarterback. He could easily go in the 3rd round, maybe even early 2nd, but not the first pick, not the first round. So anywho, we'll get more into that as we talk about our draft results. We're going to share the results here on, and we'll talk about it for the people that are not watching on YouTube. But another question I do want to ask you: how do you feel about drafts before preseason is over or after the preseason is over? And kind of like share what your thoughts are, your experiences as far as like drafting, and we'll go from there.
So I had, honest to God, never, ever, ever considered what it meant to draft before the preseason. Like, this is literally something that I spoke to someone about this week when I told him, like, hey, like my drafts is coming up, whatever, I'm busy. And he was like, who drafts before preseason? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, most of my drafts, from what I can remember, have always been before preseason. Right. And then I sat down and I was like, wait, he's not wrong. Like so many things can happen in preseason. Like there are so many factors that go into it. Even though for the majority of the part, sometimes you don't see like starters playing in preseason, but it does happen. Like for example, Tua was out there with Tyreek Hill on Saturday, like throwing, anything could have happened. And then had I picked him, I don't know, whatever. Anyways, now I think about it and I'm like, I don't know that it's such a smart idea. I think I might make a request to my commissioner to change it for next year because anything can happen. I mean, granted, anything can happen during the season too, but that's kind of expected.
Absolutely.
I guess maybe because I'm kind of a fantasy noob. I'm only like 6 years in. I had never really considered it.
Right.
until now that I'm like, wait a minute,
So that's a
why are
good
we doing
point.
this?
Right, and that's a good point you bring up because anything can happen. I remember I want to say like year 8 or 9, I forget what year it was, but we ended up doing the draft a little earlier because I was just so happened that I was celebrating my birthday, which is a week ago today, so the 24th of August. So it's earlier compared to the season start. So I was only going to be here for a certain amount of time, and then I was going to head back home. And I was like, oh, we're going to do the draft a little earlier. So we did the draft earlier, and one of the big guys was Jordy Nelson, and he was drafted by Green Bay with Green Bay. And preseason, like week 3, like he was out for the year, and the guy that picked him up was pretty upset, and he was like, dude, what do I do now? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's already picked. Like, it's kind of. So we looked at it and we said never again. Like, no matter what, even if I'm there, like we'll do it on the computer, but we're never going to do something like that again to hurt somebody. So now my rule of thumb is always like the week before. I usually try to do it the Thursday before the Thursday first game of the year, or if not, that Labor Day weekend usually is when I try to set it up. So then that way it's ready to go. Everybody usually has Monday off, or sometimes a long weekend. Sometimes it's tough too because people travel. But I kind of just play that favor and just go that way. Most of my players pretty much know that's going to be the rule of thumb, and we're going to play around that time. So, and then just another good example is the unfortunate news that Brian Robinson, the running back of the Washington Commanders, got shot last week. Something that's unexpected. And I know that fantasy football and real life are two things that we should separate. But people are playing fantasy football. They go ahead and draft a guy like Brian Robinson, who's been kind of like the hype train talk of becoming the starter for the Commanders instead of Antonio Gibson. So if you drafted him, round 5, 6, 8, 9, and thought, hey, I got a starter here, now you don't. Now you have somebody who might not play this year because unfortunately he got shot. It's not life threatening, thank God. But those things happen, and of course that could have happened during the season. It could have been week 2, week 3, but at least it's like it happened during the season. Like that's something you can't control. But if you hold the drafts till after preseason, any injuries, Zach Wilson got hurt a couple weeks ago. At first everybody was thinking ACL. What if you drafted him before that? Like and then all of a sudden you're watching, and you're like, great, now I just lost my starting quarterback, or a backup potential. So I think it is a good idea to draft after the preseason. And just not to touch too much away, what are your thoughts of the Brian Robinson situation? Suppose he gets shot over a robbery.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely insane. Like, I mean, at least from what I read, like the guy was just like shot in his car. I can't like it. People, I understand that everyone needs guns to like protect themselves and stuff, but like, come on,
Right.
stop shooting each other.
I mean, it's just
It's
I
so
feel like
bad.
it's like what is going on? Like, and I get it. It's like, well, this happens every day. Normal people get shot or get burglarized and stuff like that. It's just unfortunately the way it works nowadays is that someone famous it happens to, and it's like everybody hears about it.
Yeah.
So shout outs to Brian Robinson. Hopefully he gets a speedy recovery. He's already out of the hospital, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, he was out. He was in his training facility the next day.
There you go. So,
He's out there.
good to hear it. Still not drafting him where I had him originally. So, if anybody wants to take the risk, by all means, go for it. But we digress. All right, cool. So let's talk about it. Cribsy, we had 2 teams that we drafted. Of course, my big league is this weekend. Or my 2 big leagues are this weekend. So I'm drafting this weekend for those.
Wait, so what's the total for you? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like
of teams that I got.
Of fantasy leagues you are currently playing in.
Last year I played in 8, and I believe that I'm playing in 8 again. Like I believe all 8 I'm playing again.
You are a wild one.
I can't say no to people. I don't know why. I have this tough time with saying no when someone's like, come back. And I'm just like, oh, it's $100 here, $100 there, 50 here, But there's one that is free. I play one for free with the Fantasy Footballers podcast because I listen to them a lot and stuff like that, and I'm subscribed. So I play one for free with them, and with a chance to potentially win and play with them like in a specific league. So that would always be cool if I was able to win something like that. But it's so difficult because like talk about thousands of people sign up to do this one particular league. And last year I looked at my team last year and I was like, my team looks solid, and I ended up getting like 10th place. Like it was like ridiculous. So, but the other ones I do play for, I play sometimes with. I have two leagues that I play with defensive players, which is very difficult. I don't recommend it for the week of heart because it's such a longer draft. It's such a longer process to like do your homework. It's a and last year was my first time really doing it, and like I learned a lot of lessons, from IDL format. So, but there's so many different types of drafts. Like there's best ball. I'm hearing there's something like that. There's where like the whole team gets ranked. Like it's just it's crazy. But I try to do as much as I can to like make mine as unique as possible. This year I'm actually doing something called I called it the Multiverse Fantasy League Tournament, where I'm putting both leagues together in like a one single game elimination type of thing, depending on rankings. It's very complicated, but I try to get as creative as possible to make sure people come back, because they want to come back and they want to play. Mine is a $200 league, so it's like it's a hefty price to play in my league, but people keep coming back. I have returning. I think the youngest player I have here is like 4 years. The veteran. Everybody else is more. So, so with that being said, Cribs, your draft. How did it look? How did it go? First pick, you had the 12th pick and the 13th pick. So who did you pick up?
I took Devontae Adams,
Okay,
and I took Swift.
DeAndre Swift and Devontae Adams. I don't think that's a
Yes.
bad start, right? I think that's a pretty solid, tier two, arguably with Devontae Adams, and a tier maybe three DeAndre Swift. Maybe tier two, maybe right in the brink. I don't mind that at all. How did you feel about it?
I mean, Devontae Adams, I feel like obviously, he's not, I don't know. I think it was good. I think it was a
Yes.
good pick. Like I said, at first I was like, I felt like my team wasn't going to be solid. I felt like it was going to be a lot of, like second string, third string, or tiers type of guys. And I was like, I'm not going to have a star.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think for the most part, my team, I think I could do it. I'm projected highest this first week. So
Okay. That's a good start, right? You don't win a league in the first week, but it's a start, right? It gets you 1-0 and it gets you on the train, right?
yeah.
So that's awesome. Devontae Adams is switching teams from Green Bay to Las Vegas. He's going from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr. We'll see how it goes. Based on what I'm hearing, or at least some of the homework that I did was that when a wide receiver does change teams, his stats do go down a little bit.
Yep.
Hopefully, it's not too much to affect Devontae Adams, who I think is a very good choice to pick. In my draft, I actually do have the opportunity to draft Devontae Adams because I technically do have the second pick, and it's a keeper league, so we all have one keeper from the previous year. And I know that the first pick is going to be Derrick Henry, and I know that I have the choice of getting either him or Stephon Diggs. So those are the two guys that I'm looking at, this weekend. If anybody from my league is watching, there's your spoiler alert. There's no secret about it. It's either Devontae or Stephon Diggs. I'm still not, set in stone on who I'm going to go with, but I think it's a pretty solid choice. Who'd you go with after that? Like, talk to me a little bit after waiting so many picks after that. What did you do after that?
If I remember correctly, because I'm telling you, like it was a rough night, especially because I kept zoning in and out, like back and forth. But I believe my picks after that were David Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to say that I went with Kareem Hunt.
Okay, so you went back-to-back running backs there. So you have your
Yeah.
three running backs. Now, is this a two running back, two wide receiver, one flex type of situation?
Yep.
All right, perfect. So not bad.
Two flexes.
Oh, you got two flexes. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. These flexes are receiver, running back, tight ends, I'm assuming?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So not bad. You got three running backs to start off with. Who else was out there for you to potentially choose, right? Because I feel like at the last pick, it's kind of like I'm trying to be as even as possible because I'm not seeing this draft board come back to me for a long time, right? So I'm going to lose a chance to get a lot of players.
Yeah.
So when you got you got Montgomery at the first pick, and then.
Yeah, I think that's how it went.
Okay.
I think my strategy was because since like it's a PPR, so it's all like points. So my strategy was I need to get like since I'm not gonna have solid tier one wide receivers or running backs because it wasn't gonna happen. Like the position that I was in, everybody was already gone. I was watching good players go by. So my strategy was I just need to pick up enough solid wide receivers and running backs to make sure that I can at least get some of those points.
Okay.
Like I knew QB. I was gonna do solid QB. Like I knew I would have a solid pick. People didn't even go QB till like fourth round, so I was in a safe space there.
Okay.
But I needed my strategy was I just needed to pick up those wide receivers and running backs, especially because there's two flexes. And then I had like a good tight end. Like I picked Dalton Schultz as my tight end. So
amazing pick.
A
Do you know what? Do you know when you picked up Dalton?
I want to say that was my third round.
Okay, cool.
I wanted to make sure that I had at least one solid tier one type of player.
Now I'm assuming he got chosen. Like other tight ends were chosen before him, like Travis Kelce and
yeah. The top three. I think he was like fourth projected highest or something.
Okay. Do you have can we share your results here? Do you have your results ready? You like to share? I want like for the people that are watching on YouTube, we'll Cribsy set up and they can watch. So you want to make sure you watch it on YouTube if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music. Make sure to come in and check it out on YouTube. You can see special episodes too. We do some bonus episodes on there as well at times. So actually go ahead and set that up. I like Dalton Schultz. Let me tell people something. Dalton Schultz was my tight end that I drafted yesterday as well. So it wasn't all bad. Let's try to zoom in on that. All right, perfect. So let's look at this team, right? We got Jalen Hurts at quarterback. Love this pick, Cribs. Love this pick. I have absolutely high regard for this pick. I love your Courtland Sutton wide receiver pickup as well. I think
I'm zooming in for you. Hold on. All right,
gotcha.
there. Is that better?
All right, perfect. Yeah, I believe so. As long as everybody here on YouTube can see it as well, I believe everybody can see it. So Kareem Hunt, you got Darnell Mooney. Oh, this is a pretty solid squad. You got the Niners defense, Tyler Bass. So you got a pretty high kicker, pretty high defense. Mm-hmm. I think Jalen Hurts is one of those guys that could break out this year because of how he runs with the football. Doesn't necessarily throw that much, but A.J. Brown could help him out with that. Dalton Schultz again. Courtland Sutton is the pick that I think people need to pay attention to. So you got Tua as your backup.
Yeah.
No shocker there for some reason. I like the Ramondre Stevenson pickup. You got Mike Gesicki at the tight end as a backup tight end. Nicole Hardman, Isaiah Spiller, who I think also could have some chance to show something, and then Joshua Palmer. So not bad. I kind of want to give this like a solid B draft based on what you were telling me that you're in the 12th pick. It's such a difficult spot to pick from. I think the steals for you, based on what you're telling me, you got Jalen Hurts as a steal, Courtland Sutton as a steal. I really like those two guys. Dalton Schultz again is somebody that I liked. So I'm very big on that. And then your running backs. I love the fact that you got Swift, Montgomery, you got Hunt. So yeah, not a bad pickup. We'll have a grade for you. I'm gonna go ahead and send it to the Fantasy Footballers Again podcast, and they'll actually give you a grade and tell you what you need help on. And
that's super cool. I didn't know that they did that. But yeah, my strategy for the rest of the season is to actually pay attention to the waivers this year. Because since I don't have like a lot of tier ones, then I got to pay attention to the waivers to make sure that if anybody gets crazy and drops something, I'm in there like swimwear,
Absolutely. Now, we ended up getting a YouTube comment since I guess we are live, some people can watch us and stuff like that. So they're asking us thoughts on the Royce Freeman and Marlon Mack being released and how it affects Dameon Pierce's value. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this because Dameon Pierce was somebody that I was like very high on because nobody really knew about Dameon Pierce. And I just kept hearing that this guy was going to be the guy, that this guy was going to be the guy that takes over the Houston Texans running back. Now I have Marlon Mack. The crazy thing is I have Marlon Mack on a dynasty league. And I was like, nah, maybe Marlon Mack will give me like a good first solid 2-3 weeks before this guy goes and blows up. And the reason I was very intrigued on Dameon Pierce is because of a couple years ago, Arian Foster. If you remember Arian Foster, thank you that you put it on there. So that was pointed out there, just, ended up putting that for us. I was huge on Arian Foster. I thought Arian Foster was going to be like the guy that blew up and made things happen, and he was. I picked him like in the late 11th round in that year, and he just in the first week he plays, he like destroys the Indianapolis Colts and ends up just going through and ended up winning the season for me. I think that those two guys being released literally just gave Damian Price or Pierce, I keep saying Price, Damian Pierce, the opportunity to be the one. It's going to be tough because Houston's team is not good, right? The guys that I'm looking at Houston is Brandon Cooks, who I think is going to be a solid pickup. If you have that guy, I think is going to be a great pick. And you're going to see from my team that I drafted, I ended up getting Brandon Cooks as my third wide receiver, and I'm extremely happy because this guy is consistently a top tier wide receiver year in and year out with a different quarterback. It doesn't matter what quarterback you give Brandon Cooks, he is still in the top two wide receivers, like when you do fantasy football, like he's in the top 24 of wide receivers, and he's consistent. And that's something you need. If he's not injured, because I think 1 year he got hurt, but if he's not injured, this guy is solid. So Houston Texans, I always have a rule of thumb, right? We talked about this. You don't pick from a team that you don't like, that you think is not good. I like the Texans, Brandon Cooks and Damian Pierce. Damian Pierce is a guy that you should pick up. Now, be careful because in my draft, he went like in the early third round, fourth round, something like that. I mean, his ADP shot up. I don't know if it's a risk. There's a risk with going with a guy like that, right? You don't know, right? Breece Hall, the New York Jets running back, there's a risk with going with a guy like that. When I picked up Arian Foster, there was a risk with going with Arian Foster, but I picked Arian Foster round 11, right? That's the difference. If I picked up Arian Foster in round 3, I would have been nervous the whole time until week 1, like until I saw that explosion that he had. And I didn't even start him in week 1. That was the crazy part. Is I remember I didn't even start him in week 1 because I didn't think he was going to be what he was. So be careful when you go and draft somebody like Damian Pierce, because, or at least when you draft them that high. If you're going to draft them, I'm okay with you drafting him. Just make sure it's at the end of round 4, the early round 5, 6 area. Like I think that is okay, but you also got to see what other players are out there. If you have certain tiers, Cribs, we talked about it. Like right, I gave you that list, and you looked at the tiers. Like if there's a guy that's in a little bit higher in a higher tier, you got to go for somebody like that and hope that he's still on the list later on. So, all right, good. Thank you again, Appointed, for go ahead and asking us that question. We'll get back into it, and then we'll talk about my league real quick, Cribsy. So I had the 10th pick, and I told you that, in my league, I think I had some newbies that really don't know much fantasy football, so I'm not mad at that. But I saw at the 10th pick, I go, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to go with probably somebody maybe like a Devontae Adams, like, something like that. Like, but all of a sudden the draft started, and it was like, you had your Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey list, and then all of a sudden it was like Austin Ekeler went number 2 over Christian McCaffrey, which I was like, okay, like all right, I'm not mad at that. And McCaffrey, and then all of a sudden it was like Josh Allen at number 4, and I was like, what just happened? And I was
okay. Okay, I need to say this. I need to say this because I feel like there are different strategies when it comes to fantasy, and there was 1 year where I played like 3 different leagues, and I was listening to this fantasy football podcast. As a matter of fact, the UPS guy at T-Mobile was the one that got me on this fantasy football podcast because we were talking football. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And he got me on his podcast, and then these guys were talking about using taking QB as first round and setting that up that way.
Right.
And I was doing 3 leagues, and I was like, you know what? Like, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to try it in 1 league. It's not $25. It's not that bad. Whatever. Let's go.
Right.
And I tried it, and I broke the draft.
Yeah. Everybody went nuts.
Yeah, I broke the draft. I remember I took Aaron Rodgers first round, like 6th pick or something.
We call that the Tina pick.
They were freaking out. Everybody was like, what just happened? And it worked out for me. I didn't win the league that year, but I did get pretty far. I got all the
Yeah.
way to like the championship.
Right. Right.
So I do think one, it could be a strategy,
Mhm.
or well, actually, it could be a strategy. It is a strategy, but
Yeah.
the strategy could go both ways. It could be one, they're just experimenting to get the highest point value in a QB, or two, they want to break the league and see who messes up.
That's a very good point, and I'm glad you brought that up because when I first started doing my league, I remember that the first year we went in, I had picked I believe it was Reggie Wayne with the first pick on my draft, and then the next pick I ended up going with Peyton Manning. And the second round is like a high pick, and then the following year we did keepers, and I kept Peyton Manning. I kept, just saying, I have a quarterback. Like no matter what, I have my quarterback. I don't need to worry about quarterback. I'll go running back and wide receiver heavy from here on out. And in my league, we do a keeper. We do one keeper, and then we do a rookie keeper. And if you don't keep a rookie, you go into the rookie draft for the rookies that are coming in, right? So this year I kept Trey Lance because I was like, you know what? Like if I'm gonna go with a rookie, I didn't have no other rookies. I only had Trey Lance, so it was either keep him or go into the draft. And I decided to keep Trey Lance because of the value that it brings in having a quarterback like him, where you don't know what's gonna happen. He has a high ceiling, but he also has a pretty deep floor. Like you don't know if he's gonna like fail, because it is his first year playing. So I don't mind the quarterback strategy. I really don't. The problem is that when you have the number 4 pick, you're pretty much solid. You're going to have a solid running back to start your team and start your foundation. And if you go with somebody like Josh Allen, who could get you the points that you're satisfied with, and if you draft correctly from there on out and hope for some mistakes for people to drop, you could have a solid team. But Josh Allen would have been there for that same person in round 2. You know what I mean? He could have had somebody like a potential Derrick Henry, and then Josh Allen, not
So
Josh Allen and whoever he had as a second pick.
so what ended up happening in this league after they won Josh Allen? Like
So after
did
that, it was like reaching. People were reaching. Devontae Adams got picked up pretty quickly. Long story short, by the time it got to me at number 10, I had the choice between Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook. And I was like, all right, I mean, I can't go wrong either way. You know what I mean?
right.
And then I looked at the other players, and remember I had 10, so I had 11, 12, 13, and 14. So I had 4 picks between my second pick. So I said if I go Dalvin Cook, I'll have a solid wide receiver, maybe with Stephon Diggs coming back. If he's still there, I can go, Dalvin Cook and maybe Joe Mixon on the way back. But having I knew the kid that was drafting after me, and I knew that whatever position I picked, he was going to go opposite. So if I went Justin Jefferson, he was going Dalvin Cook. If I was going Dalvin Cook, he was going Justin Jefferson. So that also means that on the way back, he was probably going to switch positions. So that's something that I wanted to say because I want people to understand that when they're drafting, if you know your players that are with you in your league, you have to know how they're going to draft. You have to look at past experiences to realize, like, hey, this guy likes to draft this way. I have one kid in my league that loves quarterbacks early. So when it came to somebody like a couple years ago, like Aaron Rodgers in his prime, we always knew that Aaron Rodgers was available. When in round 2 or round 3, he was probably going to go get him. This year I have somebody who in mind, I go, he loves Josh Allen. He's probably going to get him in round 2, round 3 if he's available. And you just got to know your players. So I picked up Justin Jefferson. He went with Cook. And on the way back, I ended up getting Joe Mixon. So I have a Justin Jefferson, Joe Mixon start, to begin with. And then when it came back to me, I ended up grabbing Keenan Allen, who I think is going to be a solid, wide receiver for the Chargers. And then and I know Mike Williams is on that hype train right now. Mike Williams, a lot of people are talking about Mike Williams blowing up this year, but from what I saw last year, Mike Williams doing so good at one point and then so bad at one point. I'm like, I don't need that. I need consistency. I need to, because I don't mind Mike Williams being good at the beginning of the year. I prefer him being good at the end of the year. I'd rather have him be good like at the end of the year when I can use him for playoffs. But you just can never trust that system. So I like Keenan Allen for his like just being very secure. And then I ended up going with Elijah Mitchell, who's somebody that he wasn't my favorite pick, but he was honestly, after him, like the running back was just going to drop. So it was either him or nobody kind of thing. And so I went with him. And then, let me go ahead and show you my team so we can go ahead and just, compare notes here. And you can see what I'm talking about when it comes to like the team that I have, which I'm very confident with. So I brought it up there. I kind of zoomed out so you can kind of see the whole team. And so again, this is Yahoo League. So Russell Wilson at quarterback, Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen as my two starters. I have Brandon Cooks in my flex, which I really, really enjoy. I got Mixon and Mitchell at my two running back positions, and then Dalton Schultz at tight end. Now, Dalton Schultz, I didn't get him in round 3, Cribs. I ended up getting Dalton Schultz all the way in round 7.
Wow.
So everybody started going with, the usuals, the Darren Wallers, the George Kittles, I even saw Dallas Goedert, who I just wasn't a fan of, Travis Kelce, obviously. And then Schultz was still there, just chilling by himself, and I was just like, you know what? All right, I'm going to get him. And I just grabbed him. After that, I went to Kadarius Toney. As you see, Melvin Gordon there, J.D. McKissick, Kenneth Gainwell. I'm not too happy on my backups, right? And my backup running backs, Melvin Gordon, J.D. McKissick, and Kenneth Gainwell. I'm hoping they have good years, but for the most part, I know that that's my weak point is running back. And when it comes to free agency and waivers and injuries, I'm hoping that maybe I can get somebody there. Matt Ryan, I think, is going to be a solid pickup for me. I like him a lot. Even though I think Russell will do his job, I think Matt Ryan's a good pickup. And then with my last pick, I picked Russell Gage. Everybody let Russell Gage go. Nobody drafted him. That was, I think, my biggest steal, getting Russell Gage. And then I got defense Niners and Robbie Gould as my kicker. So that's my team. So I'm not mad. I'm not mad at all.
No. And how are you preparing for your 2 upcoming drafts?
So in my thing, I have, like I said, I have Trey Lance as a keeper. I have Alvin Kamara as my regular keeper. I have essentially the third pick, but it's technically the second because the kid who's in the second pick, his punishment is that the person that was supposed to do his punishment last year, he decided not to do his challenge. And we're going to talk about that too. Let me bring this up to you. Do you guys do any punishments for last place or no?
No,
not yet.
At least not in. At least not me. I don't know what the guys do. I'm the only girl in the league, so I feel like they probably have a separate chat without me where they're like dogging,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't think that they do anything.
Okay. Well, so we started doing the punishment thing, the whole Sacco thing where you get last place, we're doing some type of punishment. Some of the punishments have been kind of weak, trying not to hurt anybody. But 2 years ago, one of the girls that does the league with me ended up winning it, and she decided to do the punishment where she'd get the chip, the little potato chip that's really spicy. It's one chip, it comes in that one package, and it's deadly spicy. So the guy was supposed to eat it, and this guy dodged us. Gabe, if you're watching, he dodged us. He wouldn't even answer our text messages hey, yeah, he wasn't even answering. And I was as a commissioner, you kind of try to hey man, we're all doing this for fun. You got to do the rules. There's got to.
Wait. Was there a buy-in for this league?
There's a $200 buy-in.
So he already lost.
Well, he already lost, but the fact of the matter is that there's a punishment to that. We all agree that we're going to do punishments. We're going to do. Now, you couldn't do something that is going to affect your marriage or relationship. We decided that it couldn't affect your job, so you can't cut somebody's eyebrow and they work in a business where they sell or something like that. Nothing like that. But something fun. And I felt like the chip was not bad, at least in my opinion. He came with a doctor's note, Cribs, saying that he cannot eat the chip because the spiciness was going to mess up his bowels and stuff like that. The doctor gave him a doctor's note to not eat this chip. So we had to figure out some form of punishment. We didn't know. I didn't know what to do. You put yourself in my position. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to
punish? What a
sore loser. So we decided as a group, we all decided that the punishment was he's going to pay for the chip, whatever the girl paid for the chip. And since he had the number 2 pick, she is going to make the pick for him. He cannot pick a player. So we're assuming she's going to pick. Who knows who she's going to pick? We don't know who she's going to pick, but
QB, go QB,
right?
QB first.
Everybody's saying go kicker first, and that'd be the most hilarious thing ever to do. But we'll see what happens. We'll see if she gives mercy or not. She has a couple of days to decide what she's going to do. But essentially, because of that, I technically now own the second pick because if she does give up the second pick, then I will have the third. And if that's the case, then really what I have based on the keepers is Stephon Diggs or Devontae Adams as the 2 choices in front of me. And I'm kind of leaning towards Diggs. I had Adams last year. I kept Kamara over Adams just because I like to have a running back to start my leagues. That's my way to go. It's not always right. As you saw, I picked Justin Jefferson over Dalvin Cook. So it depends on you. It depends on like how the draft is going, where you can go and where you cannot go. So that's one league. And then the other league, I'm keeping Stephon Diggs because he was already a player on my team last year. And I have the number 2. I officially have the number 2 pick there. And Christian McCaffrey's on the board because Jonathan Taylor's also on the board. So I'm assuming Taylor goes 1 and McCaffrey's right there for me to take. So I'm going Stephon Diggs, Christian McCaffrey in a 14-man league. That is big to have those 2 type of players on my team.
Yeah, that's insane. So when you go, because you use your Yahoo for your leagues, so Yahoo has the option of just like you can just reopen the league, keep the same players, and move on.
Yeah, so they have a keeper system where you can keep as many players as you want. So it depends on you and your league how many you decide to go with. And again, we decided to go with 1 keeper. We've done different things throughout the years. We've had even like a point system where you can keep 2 players, maybe 3 players, depending if you had enough points. But it got a little difficult to understand for newer people that came into the league. So we just decided to do 1 straight up keeper. And then last year I implemented the rookie keeper, which was like a big hit, because so basically the way it works is if you have a rookie, you can keep them. Right. But let's say you had no good rookies and you didn't want to keep any rookie, you can enter yourself to go into the rookie draft. And based on the order of the standings from last year, you would have like picks based on that. And whoever like goes into the rookie draft goes and picks rookies that are coming in, brand new rookies that are coming in. So they're officially off the board. So, this year, Breece Hall got picked up already. Drake London got picked up, so it just takes away. Now, those players are not available anymore, but at the same time, if you have a good running back, like I believe somebody kept Jamar Chase. So that's a rookie that you wanted to keep. She kept him, and now she's got Jamar Chase to start off the season, which is a high valued wide receiver. So it works out. It's fun. Somebody kept Najee Harris because they drafted Najee Harris. So, so it's fun. I think it's be as unique as possible. I also hate when leagues are just, they follow the same trends and, like wander off and do something. I think I was one of the first ones in my area to do 6 points for quarterback touchdowns, and the average was always 4. And then the other day I was listening to the podcast and they were talking about it and they were like, a lot of people are doing 6 points. And I was like, I kind of like, feel proud that I was like ahead of the game to be like, yo, let's make it fun. Let's give quarterbacks their value, and like make sure that they're worth it. Defenses, I have so many points for defenses. Sometimes my defenses can score 30 points and really change your week, Like I play in leagues that like the defenses are making 12 points and I'm like, yo, they had such a great ass week and you give them 12 points? Like, hell no. Like, running backs with a bad week can have 12 points. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Have fun. Like that's my advice to commissioners out there. If you have a league of your own, change up the rules. Ask what people want. You know what I mean? And like, and give the people what they want. And you'll see that they're gonna like it. My guys always love my league, and I'm happy to keep doing it year in and year out.
They will come back. They will come back.
You build it, and they will come. All right. Well, that's enough fantasy talk, right? Got a lot to unpack with fantasy, and we'll talk throughout the year about who to pick up, who we're looking at. We'll kind of maybe give like a little bit rundown of what we're looking at, and keep updates to everybody and how our teams are doing. So Cribs, obviously, we always go to our final reckless thoughts. Cribs, do you have anything?
No, come back to me.
All right, cool. Well, my reckless thoughts. I went to Cuba. All right, I went to Cuba.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, so listen, I went through some shit on my birthday. My birthday was on August 24th, so it was last Wednesday. And man, let me tell you, in my 35 years of life, I have to say this was an interesting birthday. And why I say that is because we got there the 23rd. I went with a girl that I know and I'm talking to. And we go out there on the 23rd. And we were in Old Havana. I wanted to see Havana for what it is, the city of Old Havana, and just be in like the downtown area of what, Cuba or what the capital city has. And we had a good time. It's a lot of tourists there, mainly from Canada, Europe. You see a lot of tourists like that. You don't see Americans because Americans can't go there, right? So you can't tour. You can't go for tourism. If you have family there, you can go you can do it. But if you're going for just straight tourism, they're not letting you in. But I'm glad to say that we weren't asked any questions. They literally just looked at our passports. They made sure we had our visa, and they let us right through. And a visa in Miami, you can get it at any place that does like Cuban tours and stuff like that, or like they do the trip for you. You can buy the visas there for like $100 and stuff like that for the visa. So it was extremely like I thought like useful and yeah. Anyways, so after Havana, let me tell you, we went to Veradero, or we were supposed to go to Veradero, which is like a 2-hour drive, and we ran out of cash. Let me tell you guys something. If you're going to Cuba, bring enough cash. I read all about it that they don't take U.S. dollars, they don't accept U.S. debit cards, they don't accept U.S. credit cards. So we knew that we needed enough money to survive Havana and get to Veradero because we were in an all-inclusive resort. So we decided, maybe if we take out 180 between the both of us, we should be fine. No, because the taxis from the airport, cost about $30. Then you got the food, you got little tips here and there. If you want to drink here, if you want to go explore here, all of a sudden we're down to like our last $20. And I went online and I saw that this bus like takes us from Havana to Veradero for $20. And I'm like, I literally had 15 in my pocket. And I go, okay, cool. Like they take debit cards. So I went to put my stuff, but it didn't register. So I'm thinking we have to show up to the station and pay there. So we get to the station and they literally were like, yeah, you have to be here like an hour early or we can't take card. And he's like, you got cash? And I'm like, and I'm talking Spanish. And I'm like, bro, I only got $15. And US, so he looks at me and he's like, let me talk to the driver. And I'm sitting there like, if this guy takes my last $15, I'm out of cash completely. Like, how am I supposed to take the taxi from the station to the resort when I get to Veradero? So this is running through my mind. He gets me in the bus, which is a whole other story entirely. We don't have time to catch on. But we get on the bus and we go to Veradero, and then I get there and I'm like, I had 2 hours to think. So I'm like, there has to be a way. Now, the girl that I was talking to called her bank before leaving the US and was like, I'm going to use my card in Cuba, so don't block me. And when we get to the thing, I asked the taxi driver, and he's like, man, ain't no banks accepting your cards. Ain't no bank gonna give you money out here. Like, you're screwed. And I'm sitting there like, and like, it's 20 minutes of a drive from the station to the resort. So if we're walking, it's not like, what, 2 hours? Maybe an hour and a half. I don't know. So I'm like, we got to figure some shit out. And this is in Cuba. This is a third world country who like, this is, not a spot that you want to be stranded in.
Right.
So the taxi driver was nice enough to take us around, and we ended up getting to a bank where after like 2 banks that we went to go see, we got to a bank and I was like, I saw 2 Americans like chase them down. I'm like, yo, how did you get money? They were like, if you bring your passport, they'll take the money out for you. I told homegirl, get your ass in here. We got to go to the bank. She goes in the bank. Luckily, they give us the money. And let me tell you, it was like a moment in time where I was just like, we're done. We're stuck here. Like, if this bank doesn't take us, like, we're done. We're screwed. Like, what do I do next? Like, where do I go? Like, who do I ask money for? You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just so many things running through my mind. But we survived Cuba. It was amazing. And let me tell you, for any Americans who want to go to Cuba, like, hit me up. I'll let you know how to get in. It's worth it if you go with a significant other or if you go with friends. I feel like when I was there, I was like, if I can come with a group of friends, I'm sure we'll have the time of our lives here. So make it happen. It's like super cheap to get there too. So that's my reckless thoughts. I mean, I survived Cuba. I'm happy to be home. I'm happy to be in the States.
I was so nervous for you to be gone. I was like, he better come back. How many times did I text you better come back?
And I didn't have really good service. So it wasn't like I could just text anybody. Like I didn't have any good service. And T-Mobile was like, they sent me a message. They're like, every text message you receive and send, like you're gonna get charged like $1.50 or something like that. And I was just like, oh, like I cannot talk.
I'm sorry.
No, and of course it was my birthday, so everybody was texting me. So I'm like hitting people on Instagram, like, I can't answer through text, but thank you, I appreciate it. So I can't wait to see my T-Mobile bill. I can't wait to see my T-Mobile bill.
You need to tell them it was your birthday, and by the way, happy belated. Hey.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
When do we get to celebrate, huh?
We will celebrate soon, Cribs. Hold me to that. I'll be back and we'll celebrate. So yeah, we'll definitely do that.
I don't know if I have much of a reckless thought, but Dolphins to the Super Bowl this year.
Oh my God.
Period. 53 men rosters are out. NFL season is around the corner, and we're in it, baby.
Everybody block Cribsy because it's gonna be annoying this year listening to Dolphins chatter.
Dolphins to the Super Bowl.
Well, that's all the time we have today. We've got past the 1 hour mark. We're always trying to get under it, but if you stayed intrigued enough to stay with us the whole time, we want to thank you for joining us on the Reckless Thoughts podcast. But before we leave, of course, follow us at the Reckless Thoughts podcast on Instagram, as you see down on the ticketer, and then also follow us, individually. Have a couple laughs. I always try to put some jokes in there. Reckless824 on Instagram and on Twitter. Cribsy
at KRIB_ZEE.
All right. Well, we'll be back hopefully next week to share some more love. I'll keep that up there for everybody just in case they're watching. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Cribsy, thank you for joining me always. And we'll see you next time, guys. Take care. Nothing but love.